What is up? My name is Austin Biddy. I am the youth pastor at Steele Church of Charlotte. If you are watching this message today, welcome. Whether you're from our youth group or not, I am glad that God brought you here, and I pray that He will speak to you through this message. These messages are a recap of our Sunday morning time. That way you have the opportunity to never miss a week. You can go back on our YouTube channel, so go ahead and subscribe. If you're on here and watching this video right now, like, comment, and you'll never miss a Sunday. And this is our Sunday morning messages. What is up? So we are beginning a series called Influencer. We all know about influencers. If you are on any kind of social media, which you must be living under a rock if you're not on anything, whether it be YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. I know back in my day it was MySpace. But we all know about those that are verified. If they have that blue check mark, if they have millions of followers or millions of views on their TikTok account, millions of subscribers on their YouTube channel. And many of us, we wonder how they actually got those. How did they famous? What are they famous for? But I know there's people that you watch that you enjoy. And so we are all influenced by somebody, whether it be in a positive way or a negative way. We are all influenced. And the message or the heart behind this message today is for us to be influencers for Christ, because that is what is most important. So what is influence? Influence is a way of impacting the way other people think, believe, and behave. So we have the opportunity to impact people for Christ in the way they think, believe, and behave. We have all been impacted by somebody, whether somebody taught us how to tie our shoe. That's one of the most basic things, whether they put us on our favorite Netflix series or introduced us to a friend. But we have all been influenced by other people to some degree. And it's important to realize when we are being influenced, and also to realize the opportunity that we have to influence other people. So there's a guy that I want to talk about right now. I might butcher his name, but his name is Ignaz Semmelweis. And it's going to be on here on the screen. That way you guys can see it. Ignaz Semmelweis. So this guy was a doctor in Hungary. And this is a powerful story. So back in the day, this was in the 1840s, they hadn't discovered what germs were. He is the guy that discovered germs. So I'm going to read this quick story. Basically, he was beginning to realize that people would come to the hospital sick, injured, or have a baby only to catch an unrelated disease, which would sometimes result in their death. After a lot of study and research, he decided that there must have been tiny particles of disease traveling from one sick or dead patient to another, causing them to get sick. He was right, of course, and those particles are what we now know to be germs. The reason I tell you that story is because he had a message, but he lost his audience because he felt like that was the only way, and he had a very dogmatic approach. He would speak down to other doctors and criticize them if they didn't follow his procedures for hand washing. And so he had this awesome message of the need to wash hands, which is especially important in this COVID season. This awesome message, but the doctors and nurses didn't hear it because of the way he spoke to them. He went on to lose his job, and thousands of people probably went on to die because of him not being willing to humble himself and realize the way he was speaking to people. So he had an awesome opportunity. So I want you to think about that. Would you rather have an audience with no message, or would you rather have the message with no audience? Either way isn't good. We want to have a true message, and we all have that. It's the message of the gospel, that Jesus Christ came and He died on the cross for our sins, for your sins. And He raised from the grave. He conquered death. That's the good news that we have to share. We get to share that message. And so now it's just about finding the right audience. Whether or not you have the platform where you have thousands of followers to be able to share it, or whether or not you have the one friend in your math class that you have the opportunity to share with, or maybe it's the 3 friends on your sports football team. Just using the influences, the people that are around you, to influence people for Christ. That's what this message is about. So I want us to read a few verses for you. The first verse I'm going to read is James chapter 2, verse 14 through 17. It says, "What good is it, my brothers, if someone says he has faith but does not have works? Can that faith save him? If a brother or sister is poorly clothed and lacking in daily food, and one of you says to him, 'Go in peace, be warmed and filled,' without giving them the things needed for the body, what good is that? So also faith by itself, if it does not have works, is dead." So the important point I want you to get from that is if you follow Jesus, your life should match your message. If you follow Jesus, your life should match your message. We cannot be hypocritical and say, hey, you need to live a better life. I see this sin that's in your life and try to throw the first stone. We have to humble ourselves, take the stone out of our eye, the sin that's in our hearts, and then go and meet other people where they're at. But the work of Christ begins in us first. The next verse I want to read is James 3. I'm going to read a few verses really quick to point out the need for us to be humble. The need for us to be humble. James chapter 3, verse 13, it says, "Who is wise and understanding among you? By his good conduct, let him show his works in the meekness of wisdom." That's James 3, verse 13. James 4, verse 6. "But he gives more grace, therefore," it says, "God opposes the proud, but gives grace to the humble." And then James 4, chapter 4, verse 10 says, "Humble yourselves before the Lord, and he will exalt you." So we see humbleness being a central theme here. And humbleness is going to be a central theme for you to be an influencer for Christ. If you are arrogant, people aren't going to even hear your message. It could be the best message of all. It could be the cure for cancer. But if you go about it in an arrogant way where you just speak down to other people, then the message is lost. So we must humble ourselves before Christ before we can think about being an influencer. And we humble ourselves with just showing humility and meekness before God. And at that point, God will want to use us as his vessel. But we can't go about it our way. We have to go about it God's way. So humility is a big deal to God, so it should be a big deal to us. If it's a big deal to God, if it's important to him, then it should be important to us, and humility is. Just like I don't have a microphone now, but just because we have a microphone that we can stand in front of an audience or an auditorium or in a theater and speak in front of people. A microphone, it might increase the number of people who hear your message, but it doesn't give you a meaningful message. A microphone doesn't give you a meaningful message. A social media platform, thousands of followers, millions of subscribers, none of those things give you a meaningful message. The message of the gospel is the meaningful message that we have to share and that we should share. So to be an influencer, we need to be humble and not arrogant. And that's the main idea for today. Write that down, pin it, do whatever you need to do to remember it, write it on a note card, put it on your fridge. To be an influencer, we have to be humble and not arrogant. Humble ourselves before Christ. So whether you believe it or not, you're already an influencer. You're influencing people to a little degree, to a high degree, in a positive manner, in a negative manner. We're all influencing people, and we're all being influenced. And so it's important to watch both ways. Watch who's influencing us, and watch who we're influencing. Because we are called to influence people for Christ. And I want to share you a famous quote. You've probably heard of this influential writer named C.S. Lewis. I want to share one of his quotes. He once said that true humility is not thinking less of ourselves, but thinking of ourselves less. I hope that sinks in. It's not thinking less of ourselves. It's not say, hey, I'm worse. I'm a terrible person. I'm short. I'm all of these things. I have bad characteristics. It's not thinking less of ourselves, but just thinking of ourselves less often. One of the things my mom used to do that, well, I didn't realize it at the time, but I'm appreciative she did it now. But anytime I had guests come over to our house, she would make me let them sleep in my bed and I would have to sleep on the floor. And it was that simple act of humility that I didn't think much of, but I realized now that it was putting the other person before me. It was thinking about that other person. I thought about myself less than I did that other person. And we have the opportunity to do that every day, to think about ourselves less often, to think about people more often, because our ultimate and great commission is to love God more than anything and to love people. And the way we love people is by influencing them towards Christ, because there's nothing better than a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. Each and every one of us need that. We should desire that. So let's be an influencer for Christ this year. I challenge you to commit to that. Commit to being an influencer for Christ this year, whether it be on your Instagram page whether it be in tweets on your Twitter account, whether it be creating a YouTube channel, no matter where it is at, you have the opportunity to influence people for Christ. So be an influencer for Christ this year. And what that takes is being humble and not arrogant. Thanks for joining in today.